Hi, thank you and welcome to today's Candidate Forum, brought to you in partnership with City Club of Central Oregon and the League of Women Voters of Deschutes County, two organizations that are passionately nonpartisan and whose purpose today is to engage and inform Central Oregon voters for the special district election on May 18th. Our goal is to provide an opportunity for fair and impartial discourse, to educate voters about candidates' views on issues, and to stimulate voter interest and participations in elections. Today, we are hosting the candidates for the Redmond School Board positions 3 and 4. The candidates participating today for position 3 are Levon Medlock and Jill Cummings. For position 4, it is a 2-year position, filling the vacated seat of Tim Carpenter, who resigned on March 17th. The candidates are Carrie Lopez, Carmen Larson, and Oscar Gonzalez. Bob Perry is not with us tonight. The Redmond Board of Directors consists of 5 members elected to serve overlapping 4-year terms as non-salaried trustees of the school district. As elected officials, the board is responsible for the scope, depth, and quality of education and is the official policy-making body of the school district. My name is Kim Scott, League of Women Voters past president, and I'm honored to serve as moderator today. Today's live stream is also made possible by Connect Central Oregon, a nonprofit launched with the assistance of OSU Cascades Innovation Collab. Our sponsors for the entire series of candidate forums are G5 Digital Marketing, Miller Lumber, Brooks Resources, the Deschutes Public Library, Steershaw's Group, and Louis Capozzi. We are grateful for their support for these educational forums. If you're interested in supporting City Club or the League of Women Voters, please check out our websites to get more information. That would be cityclubco.org and lwvdeschutes.org. All candidates who are in contested races were invited to participate via email and follow-up phone calls. We do not let a lack of response or an RSVP of regret cancel our forums. We appreciate the gravity of committing to run for office, and our goal is to provide an opportunity for fair and civil discourse. Thank you to the candidates who are participating in today's forum. We will start with 2-minute opening statements, then each candidate will have 1.5 minutes or 90 seconds to answer questions in a rotating order. Questions are taken from the community, members of City Club, and members of the League of Women Voters. At the end, each candidate may give a 2-minute closing statement. For opening and closing statements, we have randomly selected the order. So let's get started. We're going to start with Jill Cummings, who is with us today on her phone. Jill, if you'd like to give your 2-minute opening statement.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you for the introduction. I am pleased to be here today. I am running for the school board because I am a mother of 2 Redmond School District students. I am passionate about the student experience, equality and equitable education, fiscal accountability, and prudent policy. The school board deserves a director with knowledge, experience, and community connections. I grew up in Central Oregon. As a parent, I have experienced the entire K-12 Redmond School District experience. My eldest graduated early from Redmond High School to pursue an electrician apprenticeship program, and my youngest is in 8th grade at Elton Gregory. I've been involved in the schools locally since 2002 as a SMART volunteer and a financial literacy instructor for junior achievement. I have successfully worked with students, teachers, faculty, and administrators. I've been deeply involved in the Redmond community for years. I have served on the board and executive board of the Redmond Chamber of Commerce. I have served our students as the co-chair of the Redmond Athletics Committee. I currently serve as an advisory board member for Rimrock Trails Treatment Services, which offers mental health counseling and substance use treatment services to individuals and families. I'm a longtime supporter of Family Access Network. The years I have served this community has allowed me the opportunity to build connections with citizens and district stakeholders. I have been in the local banking industry since 2002. I have been through the local housing boom, the Great Recession, and now the pandemic. I have successfully led teams, managed internal policy, federal and state regulations, produced exemplary audits, and advised on multi-million-dollar budgets. I am eager to bring my experience and knowledge to the community.
Thank you very much, Jill. I'm afraid your 2 minutes is up. Do you have access to a timer?
I can get a timer, yes.
Okay, because thank you very much. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Thank you.
It's time for
Thank you.
Levon Maddock, also for position 3. Madlock, I'm very sorry. Annette, will you like to do your 2-minute opening, please?
Thank you, Kim, and the League of Women Voters and City Club for hosting us today. My name is Levon Medlock, and I'm running for Redmond School District Board Position 3 because I believe our children deserve a safe, compassionate, and equitable education. As a resident of Redmond since 2005, I have served on the board of Start Here Preschool, a parent-run cooperative, and REACH, a youth enrichment program. My passion for engaging youth in their education goes back 20 years to my college experience serving as a youth tutor and my young adult days where I volunteered as an ESL instructor for adults. I'm now ready to take on the significant responsibility of setting direction for the Redmond School District. Education is a value my parents instilled in me from a young age. They believed that having a solid K-12 education would provide a springboard into a brighter future. I want to help create that same opportunity for the children of our community by bringing to the table my lived experience. I earned a spot at one of the top public health universities in the country, and I'm a first-generation college graduate. I'm proud to say that in 5 short weeks, I will have also earned a graduate degree from OHSU. Professionally, I've transitioned from a corporate consulting career to small business ownership to being a full-time stay-at-home mom before returning to the employed workforce. Each of those experiences informs my ability to represent the diverse needs of families in our community. As a parent of 2 children in the district, the decisions the district makes has a direct impact on my family. I want to ensure that every child feels like they belong, that they can learn, and develop interest to pursue post-graduation. Trust me with your vote. I promise to honor it and advocate for you and our children. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Levon. Next, for position number 4, Carrie Lopez.
I'm muted here. Awesome. My name is Carrie Lopez, and I'm running for position 4 on the Redmond School Board. I'd like to start by informing your viewers that Robert Perry has accepted a consultancy position that would preclude his participation in school board meetings for the foreseeable future and is supporting my candidacy for position number 4. I'm a born and raised Oregonian. I have lived in Deschutes County for over 20 years, and I don't feel like I'm old enough to say that. Upon graduating from high school, I attended Oregon State University in Corvallis and completed my Bachelor of Science degree in General Agriculture and earned a certificate of applied ethics jointly through Oregon State University and Oregon State University Cascades campus in Bend. While attending OSU Cascades, I testified before the Oregon State Legislature in support of the campus in Bend. Having a 4-year university in Bend provided the opportunity for me to become the first woman in my family to earn a college degree. I'm a product of the K-12 public school system and also the public university system in Oregon. I'm a firm believer that education opens the door to a better life, and students deserve to have an education that sets them up to be competitive and successful in the world. After graduating from Oregon State University, I worked in investment banking for Wells Fargo Advisors. I held my Series 7 and 66 licenses and led a team of stockbrokers and sales assistants through multiple acquisitions, creating policies and procedures and adapting to change in a very highly regulated environment. In 2011, my husband started Rogue Builders. As a small business, we employ 4 people building custom homes throughout Central Oregon. I currently have 2 children attending schools in the Redmond School District, and they have done so since kindergarten. And as a parent, I've been involved in my children's classrooms as a regular classroom volunteer. I've helped with the PTC. I love being in the classroom and being on site for students in the school.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate those comments. Carmen Larson, your turn for your 2-minute opening.
Thank you so much. My name is Carmen Larson, and I want to start by thanking the current school board and their dedication to our district. Thank you so much. I also want to let you know why I'm running for school board. I am running for school board because I want to serve my community in an intentional way. I already do this as a public school teacher, and I want to do it as a member of the school board as I look for ways to make learning more equitable for all students. My husband grew up in Redmond, and his parents still live in the same house he grew up in Southwest Redmond. I grew up in Concord, California. Then I went to University of Oregon in Oregon State, where I got my bachelor's in human development and family sciences. I then was able to be a stay-at-home mom for 15 years as I helped to raise our 3 sons in their younger years. 6 years ago, my husband got his dream job at his high school alma mater as the band and choir director. I then was able to continue my professional pursuits in education. I was first an educational assistant at 2 campuses in the Redmond School District. Then I went to OSU Cascades and got my master's in teaching in 2019. And I've been teaching at Madras Elementary ever since. During the course of the pandemic, I have seen the struggles that learners have had to stay engaged in learning through my own students in my classroom, through the eyes of my elementary school son, my middle school son, and my high school son. I am confident that I have the communication skills and the collaboration needed to work with fellow parents, fellow educators, administrators, and community members as we work together to support all youth and make sure that learning is equitable for all, and also to support the adults that work with them tirelessly in the schools. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carmen. Oscar Gonzalez, you're next for your 2-minute opening.
Good afternoon, everybody. Oscar Gonzalez here, running for position 4. Prior to my arrival in Central Oregon in December of 2015 and becoming the Empowerment Programs Manager for the Latino Community Association of Central Oregon, I spent 22 years in education, mostly as a counselor, teacher, and/or coach. It's possible that some of you here may have heard of KIPP Academy or the KIPP Schools, nationally acclaimed, much admired pioneer in the public charter school movement. As their founding counselor, we were able to achieve remarkable academic outcomes with our students in Houston. 99% of them minority, mostly immigrant middle schoolers, who upon matriculating from our middle school would then go on and attend some of the country's best high schools, including elite prep schools, later transitioning directly into 4-year institutions of higher learning. We're talking first-generation kids whose parents mostly had little or no formal education, kind of like me, returning home from college degreed. This phenomenon has transformed much of the Southwest over the course of my lifetime, with many more minorities able to have been now fully transitioned into the middle class as professionals. While I hold and desire high expectations of academic achievement and success for all of our Redmond students, I'll have a special focus on serving the educational needs of historically underserved and educationally marginalized groups of students, including Bipoc, those experiencing poverty, homelessness, or foster care, those who are LGBTQ+, special ed, English learners, migrant ed, and those who are linguistically diverse. The notion that all children can and will learn remains foundational to my vision in providing equitable learning opportunities to all of our student youth. I will be committed to fostering a culture of high expectation for both students, teachers, and administrators. I will encourage our school district to promote social emotional skill development in all of our student youth and incorporate restorative justice practices and values in all of our school communities.
Thank you very much, Oscar. I'm afraid your time is up. And that was a 2-minute opening. Thank you. We will now go on to the question part of the forum. I will state the question. I will first tell the person who gets to go first, then it goes through a rotating order. The questions will all have 90-second answers or 1.5 minutes on that. So hopefully we'll do well there. The first person for the first question, Levon, you're up. Our first question is, scientific evidence indicates a strong need for masks and vaccines. If elected to the school board, would you incorporate this evidence into school policy and require student teachers and staff to wear masks and be vaccinated?
Thank you for the question, Kim. In my capacity as a healthcare leader with St. Charles Health System, I've had a front row seat to the global pandemic. I actually served in our COVID-19 incident command response structure for 52 weeks and know deeply how quickly things were changing and evolving, sometimes day to day, sometimes week to week. And I think the thing about a global pandemic that hits you every 100 years is there is no playbook. You don't know how to respond. And that's where critical thinking, nimble skills, science come into play. We have instituted masking at the health system since the very beginning, and it has definitely helped slow the spread of COVID-19 in our community. I do not believe that it is an employer's place to require vaccines. I do believe that is a community calling where as neighbors, we would be wanting to support each other and have a healthy community. Having volunteered at the mass vaccine clinic in January, I can tell you I saw hundreds of our elderly neighbors come out for their vaccines, filled with hope for the first time in a long time that they'd be able to see their grandkids. That to me is community and our responsibility to each other.
Thank you very much, LaVon. That was great. Carrie, you're next.
Well, in response to that question, I have to go back to a video that I watched yesterday. I watched an athlete from a high school athlete running the 800 meter and Bend collapsing at the end of the finish line. I get that that's a very specific situation, overexertion. I would like to see our kids back to school without masks. And I also believe that vaccines are an individual choice. That looks like community to some, and that's fine, but I also feel like that looks like personal choice to me.
Thank you very much.
Yep,
Oh,
thank you.
Yeah, sorry, did you want to continue?
No, that's good. I'm good, thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. Okay, Carmen, you're next.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to answer this question. I want to echo some of the things that LaVon said. I do agree that is more of a community choice about making sure that we are following guidelines and following the best protocol that we know at the time. Science is constantly changing and evolving depending on what kind of data is available. I feel that our school district and our leaders through the course of the pandemic have done the best they can with the information that they had at the time. Like the example that Carrie just gave, now there are changing regulations about whether or not non-contact sports need to wear masks. So there's constantly new information and constantly change. And I think that's something we need to be aware of. I believe that a place where a teacher works is also, so the teacher's work environment is the student's learning environment. So we want our teachers to be safe and we want our students to be safe, absolutely. So whatever guidelines for the safest amount of possible, that's what needs to be followed. And I agree also with LaVon about how I don't think employers should require a vaccine, but absolutely, as an educator, I jumped right on to get my vaccine because I wanted to make sure that I was healthy for my family and I was healthy for the students that I go to work for every day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carmen. Oscar, you're next. Same question.
Thanks, Kim. I underscore LaVon and Carmen, but I'm going to go from a different perspective because I'm going to date myself. When I was a little kid, there was a time where before we went to school, we had to show that we had been fully immunized. Otherwise, guess what? You weren't going to be allowed to enroll in school. And we're not talking about a private business. We're talking about public schools where a lot of our kids and obviously our teachers are congregated very closely. And so we need to take every precaution necessary and go above and beyond the minimal in terms of wearing masks and following the protocol, social distancing and such. I firmly hold that we need to be very careful and cautious, but again, be very appropriate in how we keep from infecting each other as well as our family coming back home. So I'm going to be a little more conservative on that. And again, I think it's something that needs to be mandated by the school district. And again, I don't see it as a private business decision, because it's we're talking about the health of our community, which is the greater good in my mind. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Oscar. Jill, and that you have 90 seconds. Same question. Are you there, Jill?
They need to unmute her.
Thank you.
Great, thank you for the question. Let me start by saying I am not a scientist or a doctor. We are under an executive order that requires masks to be worn. I, along with the majority of our community, want our kids back in school full time. So if that means that students wear masks to be in school full time, then I would support that. Our goal should be the safety of our students and the staff and the education of our youth. I would not support the requirement of a vaccine for students and staff. I believe that that's a personal decision and for each family to make that decision. It would be overstepping, I believe, to require vaccines for students and staff. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jill. Well, we'll go on to the next question. If any of you need me to repeat the question, please just tell me when you get called on. Thank you. Forgot to say that. Okay, Carrie, you're going to get this one. Do you believe age-appropriate sex education should be taught in schools, and would you limit information to covering heterosexual examples only?
It's a good question. Thank you for asking. I believe that, oh boy, this is a tough one for me. So I believe that there's different maturity levels and different values and different things that we need to consider when we're talking to children about sex and sex ed. I think that in a given classroom, we have different maturity levels, we have different values, and we have different things that need to be respected in terms of a family and a parent's right to talk to their children about what they want their kids to learn about sex and sex ed. I think that it's very important for parents to have access to and to review curriculum. And perhaps it's a partnership between schools. Perhaps, you know, perhaps we do it together because it's not, maybe it's not happening at home. Perhaps, you know, we look at things from a different perspective rather than just having our kids in a classroom and not really knowing and being certain of what they're being taught. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. Next, Carmen, you're next for the question.
All right, thank you. This is a difficult question, but I'm gonna make an attempt to answer it. I fully believe that it's important to educate the whole child. And what I mean by that, not just the academic part of the child, but the SEL, social emotional learning, and all elements of the child. I also believe that a parent is our students' most important teacher. So we need to work in partnership with parents to make sure that they are getting the knowledge they need to be successful citizens. I do support sex education in our schools, and of course it needs to be developmentally appropriate. I have full confidence in teachers. They are highly trained professionals, and they understand how to go, how to teach difficult subjects like this professionally. I do support levels of LGBTQ plus education in sex education. It needs to be acknowledged because that does reflect the population of our city. So we need to make sure that that's part of being equitable, to make sure that all students feel that they are included in the curriculum. And hopefully we'll be able to talk a little bit more about the curriculum later. But those are my thoughts about sex education, is that it's important to educate the whole child and in a partnership with parents.
Thank you very much, Carmen. Oscar, you're next for the question.
There she goes again, Carmen, stealing my thunder. I wholeheartedly believe in teaching the whole child and incorporating the family. The whole saying that we used to fall back on is knowledge is power. And to keep sex education from our kids in the classrooms, I think we do an injustice to them. I think we need to be honest and frank with our youth and bring in professionals. I remember what we did in Houston. We brought in the folks from the Baylor College of Medicine to help us with those conversations so that we knew that they were appropriate and age appropriate as well as developmentally appropriate. And in terms of just teaching it in a binary type of fashion, again, that does a disservice to our youth, because obviously our youth are not just male and female, but across the full spectrum that LGBTQ plus incorporates. So no, we need to, again, be educators, be teachers, but work with parents and help parents participate in those conversations so those conversations continue at home beyond school.
Thank you very much, Oscar. Jill, your turn, 90 seconds. And if you need me to repeat the question, feel free to ask.
Thank you. I've got it, Kim, thank you. I do support education of our youth, and I believe in age-appropriate sexual education. We need to be educating our youth. I also believe that we need to be transparent as a district what that curriculum is, and that we partner with our families to have full transparency on what sexual education is being taught in our schools. There should be a clear opportunity for those families that choose to opt their children out of that sexual education, that there's a clear opportunity that they can choose for opt-out as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jill. Levon, your question.
Kim, could you read it to me again, please?
More than happy to. Do you believe age-appropriate sex education should be taught in schools, and would you limit information to covering heterosexual examples only?
Thank you. I appreciate that. I do believe that we owe it to our children to teach them age-appropriate sex education throughout their lifetime. As I think it was Oscar that mentioned, knowledge is power, and the earlier we can teach children about the dignity of their body and the choices that they have full power over, I think the better. I do, I've listened to my fellow candidates talk about age appropriate. I've heard them talk about the curriculum and the ability to opt out. And I guess I'm feeling really blessed right now because my kids went through the K through 5 for one and 6 for the other at Terrebonne Community School. And we had great communication with our counselors and teachers. We always knew when sex ed was on the docket, we had the opportunity to opt out. We had the opportunity to preview the curriculum. So I'm really grateful to the wonderful educators in our community who have extended that opportunity to parents to be involved. And just as is the case with immunizations that we talked about earlier, ultimately the parents are the decision makers. If they choose to preclude their children from that education, the district makes arrangements for that child to be otherwise occupied during that time. So I appreciate the dialogue. I think we're doing a good job as is.
Thank you very much. Next question. Carmen, you're first on this one. What is your position on guns in schools, and should people who have concealed weapon permits be required to check their guns at the door?
All right, yeah. I don't think school is a place for guns. That's my short answer, but I'll give a little bit more. I think that trained professionals can have guns. So like a high school resource officer, absolutely. Guns can be kind of a area of trauma for lots of our population. So seeing them in the schools or knowing that maybe their teacher is carrying a concealed weapon can be really scary for them because it reminds them of other circumstances in their life that were scary. School is a place for education. School is a place where they need to feel safe and build relationships. It's not a place for guns. I feel that the professionals in our buildings already have enough responsibility and things that they need to not worry about, but things that is already a challenge for them to make sure that they are taking care of the children. They don't need to have a concealed weapon. I just don't feel that weapons should be on campuses.
Thank you very much, Carmen. Oscar, your question next.
Growing up in LA, guns cause so much harm, tearing up the fabric, you know, of our future youth. I can't tell you how many funerals I've attended, going back to when I was a kid and then later as an educator, both in LA and in Houston. So I have a pretty different perspective on guns. I admire people here in Oregon. They love their guns and they love hunting, and coming in from Texas, I tell them I love football, you know? So yeah, guns, especially in schools. I mean, to me, we need to do that across the board, but particularly in schools. No place. Yeah, and if anything, we need to just make our schools that much more safer, whatever that looks like, to ensure that guns don't cross that fine line. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Oscar. Jill, your question.
Thank you. Well, let me first start off by saying that, concealed weapons, those permits, I'd like to think that those owners of guns with their concealed weapons are responsible folks. I also believe that our schools should be a gun-free zone. There is a current policy in place that I would support that states that it is a gun-free zone. I do support resource officers in our schools, and they're responsible, have had the training, and are there to ensure the safety of our schools. So thank you for the question.
Thank you very much, Jill. Levon, your question next.
Thank you, Kim. The school district currently has several policies in place regarding guns on campus. Staff can't have them, visitors can't have them, students can't have them. They are a distraction to education. And I appreciate the concealed weapon permit allowance that we have in our society. I will say that last calendar year, over 1,000 of those permits were rescinded as a result of a violation of terms of actually earning that permit. So there is something to be said for ongoing checks and balances. I would work closely with our board to review existing policies and ensure that policies moving forward are copacetic with legislation as well as the needs of our community. The priority for me is safety for our students, and a lot of research shows that the most safe way to ensure safety at a school is a single point of entry and to shore up your communication system. So I'm really glad that the Redmond bond that passed last year has allowed many of our schools to do just that. We are safer as a result of dollars being put to use in a proven way, which is single point of access and access to 911.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Levon. Carrie, your question.
So I would agree with Jill that people with concealed weapons permits, I would say that they are responsible people. Would I be comfortable? I would be concerned if I saw someone walking into a school with a gun. Does that mean? And is the question, are you asking for anyone walking into the school, or is the question in terms of teachers or just in general?
I'm afraid I can't read the mind.
Sure. Yep. So I think that we, I also support a positive learning environment for kids. And I'm not sure that guns have a place in our school. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carrie. We're going on to the next question. Oscar, this one's for you. Redmond has a significant Latinx population. What role can the school board play to ensure inclusivity and safety for the Bipoc, Black, Indigenous, and people of color community in activities and curriculum?
Thanks, Kim. I guess I would be the right guy for that job. I've been doing it already for the last 5 years, not only in Redmond, but throughout all the other school districts, and being that voice of the historically marginalized group of folks that you mentioned. I now refer to them as Bipoc, Black, Indigenous, Latino, Asian people of color. So that umbrella's gotten a little bigger. As our Latinx student population here in Redmond, it's well over 20% from what I could tell. But no one on the board of that background, not yet. So it's really refreshing to see that more of us are throwing our sombrero into the ring and giving it a shot. So yeah, I'm there. And the fact that I'm from the old country, I'm an immigrant, but I was raised here. I'm able to relate really good with parents as well as with the kids. And I have opportunities in going out and reaching out and talking to kids at the different high schools here in Redmond. So that's really cool. So I just want to exacerbate that and again, incorporate more of our parents that unfortunately haven't felt very welcome historically in our schools. So we need to change that up. But yeah, I'm your guy.
Thank you very much, Oscar. Jill, you're next for the same question.
Thank you. Well, firstly, all of our students should feel welcome. They should all feel heard. I believe that our school district has made great strides in this area. They've developed a district equity task force to work in partnership with students, parents, staff, and community members to address barriers to prevent students from success. Along with creating goals and an action plan, the task force is going to focus on adopting an equity lens for Redmond School District. They're identifying policies and practices that contribute to both the achievement gap between students who endure inequities and the rest of the student population, and to achieve and the achievement of those students. So recommending district-wide training for the Redmond School District personnel to combat issues of explicit and implicit racism, as well as recommending practices to diversify the school district workforce and monitoring the implementation of those practices. They're creating and recommending projects and activities that build collective community among the diverse members of the Redmond community. They've made a concerted effort to work with the whole community on this. Strong partnerships with educators, parents, businesses, community organizations. They're really putting a lot of work into this to make every student feel welcome and to feel heard. And I support their efforts and look forward to the great work that they do. Thank you
very much, Jill. That was great. Lavon, you're next, please.
Thanks, Kim. Ironically, the talking points that Jill just read off is the work that I've done on the Equity Task Force since its inception in 2020. I have been a member of that Equity Task Force, and I'm incredibly grateful to our superintendent for prioritizing this work. It was one of the 3 goals that he was hired with, and I could have very quickly or easily seen him take a pass on it given the global pandemic. But he chose to persist, and I've been deeply grateful to the educators and community members that have volunteered their time every month for months on end to bring forth many of the recommendations that Jill just listed off. What I will say is that they are recommendations, and ultimately the decision about implementation is in the hands of the decision-making bodies of the district. And to Oscar's point, representation matters. As an individual who is also an immigrant, who has also grown up from the age of 18 by herself in this country, I can represent those needs and help narrow that gap. Equity is something that isn't always convenient. It is something that we need to uphold even in situations of duress. And from my perspective, the best way to do that is to have a voice at the table that will advocate when in duress.
Thank you very much, Levon. Carrie, your question next.
I do believe that all students have a place in our public school system and need to have the opportunity to learn and grow and achieve. You know, it was interesting to me about representation, and my boys have been in school in Redmond public schools since kindergarten, and I've never ever thought that they've been excluded or at a disadvantage because of who they are. And that's something that's really important to me when we talk about kids and students in school. It's important to me that my boys know who they are. They know where they come from. They know that they are loved and that they belong. And it's important to me that that perspective is in place in our schools. I don't ever want my kids to be told that they cannot do something or achieve something because of who they are. That is super important to me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carrie. Carmen, your question.
All right, excellent question. I'm really glad this question is given because it means that it's a priority for our community. And I want to echo lots of the things that you guys said were great. I want to echo lots of them. I want to talk a little bit about accessibility to resources. Absolutely, our school district has lots of resources, and they've moved forward with the panel that's working on equity. But we want to make sure, I have seen through the course of the pandemic how minority families have struggled. Let's pause and take a look at the gap that has been magnified because of lack of home support, financial stability, technology knowledge, and motivation. We want to make sure that all students that have been maybe missing in action because of the pandemic, that we throw our support towards them, and we make sure that our highly trained teachers who have been trained in racial equality and racial harmony understand how to support them and able to understand their culture and to bring them back, and so they feel included in the classroom. For example, my husband is the band and choir director, and lots of his Latinx students haven't come back into full. The high school is all day, every day, but his Latinx community, they're not coming back because culturally they've decided to go work for their work so that instead of coming back to school, they're working full time. So I want to make sure that all are supported.
Thank you very much, Carmen. Next question, Jill, you'll be our first up. Next question is, what are your priorities for using the federal funding the district receives from the CARES Act or other pandemic recovery funds?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Well, the CARES Act funding is so needed. It's not nearly as much as the district needs, but we'll take it. That's great. Primarily, those funds will be targeted towards, learning loss of our district. So really looking at summer school programs. It's critical that the funds be used for the students who have suffered the most. It's also critical that these funds are protected against the budget shortfalls. The district is facing some major budget challenges. The district is down over 400 students. That's a budget shortfall of over $3.5 million. Along with that, the proposed biennium budget from our Governor Brown is inadequate to service the current levels. So we need to advocate for more funding and protect the grant funds that we've received to really go to work for the challenges that we've faced as a district and our students have faced with learning loss. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jill. Levon, your question.
Thank you, Kim. As far as the CARES Act is concerned, my understanding is that that has been earmarked specifically for addressing the interruption in learning that has resulted as a consequence of COVID-19. From what I understand, the existing board has already earmarked that federal funding for summer programs to narrow that learning gap for students who've experienced an interruption to their learning this past year. But I believe it's going to take more than 3 weeks of summer school to help kids catch up. So I would turn to our experts, the educators who have dedicated their careers to educating our youth. They are skilled at identifying what we need to do to target approaches to help students move forward. Frankly, I'm skeptical that there's a one-size-fits-all solution. So as a board member, I would reach out to our educators, our family members, our students, and ask what they believe we need to do, and then advocate for how we can best use available funds to support our students and our teachers. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Levon. Carrie, your question next.
Sure, I'm super encouraged that we are getting kids back in school and we are offering summer programs. And it's important to reconnect kids as well. So once we start introducing kids back into school, it's important to keep them connected. And I'm also encouraged by the fact that Crook County schools are actually having to cap their summer program because they're full, because people are interested and they're engaged and they're wanting their kids to learn. I'm encouraged by that, and I hope we see those numbers and that support in the Redmond School District. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carrie. Carmen, your question.
Yeah, I want to echo the importance of after-school programs and the summer schools that have already been slated and planned for. I think it's absolutely important that we are bringing all students to high levels of learning, and educators do know how to do this. We know how to make sure we are targeting students that are below benchmark, and we are working strategically to bring them up to where they need to be with their peers. I am confident that as the funds are being spent, that our community will heal and move forward into the future and continue to be successful as we work to lift all of the youth of the Redmond School District.
Thank you very much, Carmen. Oscar, your question now.
One of our concerns are the number of MIE students that have gone sideways during the pandemic, and just to underscore Carmen's point about the Latinx in particular youth that have decided to help out mom and dad because they've lost hours from their job, so they feel committed to wanting to help out and kind of set aside their education. So to me, it's all about capturing those MIE kids, re-engaging not only this MIE students, but also their families, and working with the families holistically and providing them whatever supports are needed, including mental health in particular. And for the students, obviously, academic supports, which could include tutoring. And we also talk about expanding both summer school and after school programs for students. In terms of the lost learning, now we have a great opportunity to accelerate the learning, I think. I've never been a big fan of giving students off summers. We always had a mandatory summer school program when we developed our KIP model back in the day. We felt that that's an antiquated system that goes back to the 19th century when kids had to help their parents on the farm. We're pretty behind academically as a state. So I really think whatever we could do to go above and beyond and get our kids to where they need to be and get them back on track, but again, with that idea of accelerating the learning.
Very good. Thank you very much, Oscar. Levon, you have the next question first. What are your thoughts on transgendered individual use of bathrooms and/or participating in sports of their chosen gender at school?
I think that belonging is important. Feeling like you are supported by your community is important. We have significant mental health. Our transgender youth are at higher risk of suicide and mental health issues because they generally are not accepted by the mainstream. And I think that every child should be accepted. I think every child should be loved for who they are. I think every child is valued. And so for me, I guess the way I would look at it is, if I would want to be treated equitably, and if I would want my child to be treated equitably, it is my responsibility to extend the same to my community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Levon. Carrie, your next same question.
Get unmuted here. In the educational setting, all students deserve to be respected and have an opportunity to achieve and excel. And they all deserve to be respected. Thank you.
Okay, Carmen, same question.
Thank you for this question. It has a complicated and complex answer. Like many of the things that I do when I make decisions in my classroom, I make sure that my decisions are data driven. So I would definitely use data by collaborating with fellow parents and fellow educators, especially middle school and high school teachers, to see what would work best in the learning environment. I agree with Levon as she says that students need to feel included, and relationships are super important for all of our students. So we don't want anyone to feel left out because if their needs are not being met and they don't feel included, they're not going to be engaged in learning. So it definitely needs to be addressed. I feel that we need to be inclusive of all students, but I would need to have more collaboration with educators and what is currently happening at those grade levels to see what would work best for our community at this time.
Thank you very much, Carmen. Oscar, same question.
Thank you. Discrimination in any form should not be tolerated. And this is another form based on prejudice. So we need to shift our mindset. And again, going back to what Levon and Carmen iterated in terms of providing a safe space for all our youth, all our kids, and provide them again with the sense of being accepted in spite of their differences, so that they can learn to get along and learn together and grow up together and care about each other. That's a real important first step.
Thank you very much, Oscar. Jill, your question.
Well, I'm going to echo quite a few of the candidates. I definitely believe that there should be no tolerance for discrimination, that all students deserve to be treated equal. There is a policy in place right now against discrimination, and I fully support that. You know, these students, they need to be, everybody needs to be included. There's some real benefits in extracurricular activities, whether it be sports, whether it be chess, band. This provides our youth that connectiveness that they need. That's so crucial to our kids. I've seen it with my kids. I would collaborate with our teachers, with our superintendent, to really better understand the transgender youth sports. I have not heard about that in our district. If that's something that we've looked at, or I'd certainly collaborate on options. But I definitely agree that there should be no tolerance for discrimination. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jill. Next question, Carrie, you're up first.
Last question.
And this is the last question of the question, and then we'll go into closing statements.
Sure.
If you could make any changes in the current Redmond district curriculum, what would you change and why?
I think one of the things that I would change is transparency as far as how parents have access to curriculum, and making sure that the community is aware of the curriculum, as well as students and teachers. Obviously, they're going to be aware of the curriculum, but just so we play a part in it, so it's a more collaborative approach, and we have a chance to review curriculum and play a part in that. I'd also like to see opt-in policies instead of opt-out policies when it comes to curriculum. That's something I'd really like to see implemented in the Redmond School District. I know Ashland just had success, their school board just had success passing an opt-in policy for state testing this year. And I think that that's a step in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carrie. Carmen, your question?
As far as curriculum goes, I feel that teachers and administrators do the best with the resources that they have. Something that I would like to pivot, though, is that I want to make sure that curriculums that are adopted definitely have cultural responsiveness to our community, and include the demographics that mirror our community. Make sure that the Latinx community is reflected in our curriculum, and then also maybe elements of the Oregon Trail could be considered or changed to reflect the history of the Native Americans. But yeah, I think that the teachers and administrators are doing the best with what they can, but it's important that we look at our curriculums from the lens of racism, the lens of cultural responsiveness, and the lens of sexual orientation, to make sure that all students feel included and they see themselves in the curriculum. And more importantly, though, that teachers have the time and the resources to be trained on the curriculum, so they're able to present them in a professional manner.
Thank you very much, Carmen. Oscar, your next same question.
I mentioned already the notion of accelerating the learning, but it also, I believe, needs to be more rigorous, especially in trying to get more of our kids that are disproportionately represented in higher education into those four-year institutions. So if we could do a better job in getting our kids, more of our kids of color in particular, into the AP honors, IB type coursework, and get them on that college track. And of course, what Carmen mentioned about culturally relevant and responsive curriculum is huge. It made a huge difference in my world after I got into Loyola. But I really believe that we need to expose our students and make their education relevant to all our students much earlier, and get them excited about, about themselves and feeling good about themselves, that they have a positive image of not so much a bandito, but maybe a hero, so that they could look forward to having a better future, and will strive diligently to make that happen. So as part of that multiculturalism, I think ethnic studies is really important, but also talking about race, class, oppression. I've come across curriculums that we used out in Fort and Eugene called Courageous Conversations, which were hugely important, again, in providing safe spaces, mostly for high school students, to talk about these difficult issues.
Thank you very much, Oscar. Sorry. Jill, you're next for the question.
Yes, thank you. So I agree with Carrie that I'd like to see more transparency in our curriculum. I also think it's important that we're collaborating with our teachers and supporting them in their efforts of instructing our kids, that they have the time and resources to do it well. We have some of the best talent here in the Redmond School District, and we need to support them and empower them to teach and get, academic integrity is so important. We need to really support their efforts. And as we start to hear about new curriculum, this is something that we really need to ensure that we're working collaboratively as a board with our superintendent and our leadership to really look at what curriculum's being put in place, and that it meets really the vision and mission of our school district. So I really would advocate for support for our teachers, transparency and communication with curriculum. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jill. Lavon, your question?
Thank you, Kim. As I understand it, curriculum comes under review about once every 7 years. That is something that was surprising to me as I learned about it. So the first thing I would do as a board member is understand where we are in that review cycle, because this question is incredibly relevant if it falls within the next 4-year term. Otherwise, it's sort of wishful thinking. What I will offer is that for me, from a very young age, and something that my kids, my 6th grader and my 8th grader both do, is we explore the world through books. Books are a window into walking in someone else's shoes, and that can create a ton of empathy and compassion in our community. It can also help develop critical thinking skills, which I think is the ultimate end goal of an education, is that you have generated global citizens of the world who have empathy and responsibility and the ability to think critically about issues, so they are able to use their gifts and talents for the betterment of their neighborhood, their schools, their districts, etc. So, I've been really pleased with the partnership that I've had with educators and the district historically here. My first step as an elected member would be to see where we are in that review cycle.
Thank you very much, Lavon. Now we will move on to our 2-minute closing statements. Carrie Lopez, for position number 4, you will be first.
There we go. So one of the challenges I faced in running for Redmond School Board is talking about myself. You've heard a lot, from me tonight, so I'd like to take this opportunity to share with you a few endorsements. So I'll start with Chris Lang. She's a client service specialist with Client Investment Strategies. As a financial professional in Central Oregon, I've had the privilege of working with Carrie Lopez for many years. Carrie will offer to the Redmond School District many important attributes, including leadership, great communication skills, and a commitment to teamwork for the entire board. Carrie has been involved in multiple youth programs as a volunteer in Redmond and throughout Central Oregon. Her experience will prove to be extremely valuable to the Redmond School Board, and her dedication to the children of our community will serve as a benefit to all of us. The next one is from Clay Trends. He's also, he's a financial advisor with Acuity Wealth Management. I support Carrie Lopez because she recognizes the uniquely interconnected factors facing our schools, students, and families today. Carrie asks thoughtful questions and carefully evaluates the root of a challenge. She uses a collaborative approach, bringing all parties to the table, pursuing positive outcomes. This is the kind of person I want making decisions for our local school children. And the next one is from Tammy Nakamura. She is the Director of Student Support with the Redmond School District. It's with great excitement that I endorse Carrie Lopez as a Redmond School Board candidate. I've known Carrie for many years and admire her strong values, her loving heart, and passion for the Redmond community. Raising 2 sons in the Redmond School District, Carrie and her husband Jared are active parents that can be found volunteering in schools and around the community, as well as advocating for opportunities and outcomes for all students. It would be an honor to work alongside Carrie Lopez as we continue to strengthen Redmond's educational environment to grow amazing individuals ready to embrace a global society and to empower every single student to dream big. So I'm asking for you to vote on May 18th. It's important. 4 out of the 5 positions are up for election, and this election is important to the future direction of the Redmond School Board. Thank you.
Carrie Lopez. Appreciate that. Next, Carmen Larson, also position 4.
Thank you. I wanted to start by thanking the League of Women Voters. Thank you so much for inviting me to this well-organized forum. I appreciate it. I also want to acknowledge the outpouring of love from our community in the form of citizens stepping forward to run for school board. It warms my heart to know that so many people in our community are interested in the success of our classrooms. Thank you so much. I feel that there are a lot of complicated issues that need careful consideration. I am confident that I have the leadership skills and the problem-solving abilities to help network with fellow parents, fellow educators, administrators, and community members as we work together to support all youth and close opportunity gaps, and to make sure that the youth feel that they are being supported in high levels of learning, and also supporting the adults that work with them in the schools tirelessly. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carmen. Oscar Gonzalez, also for position 4.
Unmute myself. Sorry about that. Soon after arriving in Central Oregon and taking on this new position as empowerment programs manager at LCA, I came across these rumors that Latinos do not value education in Central Oregon. I literally stopped in my tracks and tried to wrap my head around this notion, acknowledging the huge sacrifice that my parents made, not so much for themselves, but for us kids. As a result, we holistically dedicated ourselves to both our studies and the love and respect to our parents. I'm here to tell you today that this idea that Latinos do not value education is a myth. All we need is an opportunity. Many of you all recognize the strong work ethic manifested in many of our working families and parents. And as the old saying goes, an acorn doesn't fall too far from that tree. I believe in our Latino students and their families and their drive for success. Again, we just need opportunities. What kind of opportunities, you ask? Here are some suggestions. Provide our students with more access to high quality advanced coursework across several disciplines. Access to broad curriculums that include art, culture, ethnic studies, technology, music, math, sciences, and world languages. Provide our students with a more diverse faculty and staff. Studies found that if a student during their elementary years has a teacher of color at least once, their chances of attaining higher education increases by 25%. If that student should be lucky to have at least one other teacher of color during their elementary school years, that chance of going on to college doubles to 50%. It is time for our school board to become more reflective of the community of students and families served by our local schools. I believe myself capable of bringing that voice to our burgeoning Latino students and the respective families, and ensure equitable and expanded educational opportunities, and ensure equitable spending and expanded educational opportunities, and overall improve academic achievement.
Thank you very much, Oscar. I'm afraid your time is up, but thank you. Now we will move on to the position 3 candidates. Levon Medlock, you are first.
Thank you, Kim, and the League of Women Voters and City Club for hosting a forum that allows us to engage today. My unique perspective is unmatched on the existing board as well as with the candidates. I've lived in Redmond since 2005, but I've also lived almost as long overseas. I've lived in metropolitan cities and small towns. I can represent the needs of students who wish to explore the world, as well as families who wish to stay home. As a small business owner who navigated the economic downturn of 2008 successfully, I'm confident that my skills and experiences in turnaround situations will be a desirable skill set for the incoming board. That experience gives me the background and knowledge to handle the post-COVID-19 recovery process. Additionally, I have worked in a variety of capacities within the local health system, including as an operational lead for a $66 million expansion to the Bend Hospital a few years ago. That project took 3 years and required I engaged productively with hundreds of stakeholders. but perhaps my biggest strength is an unwavering commitment to education for all of our students, because that is what was life-changing for me and what allowed me to accomplish the many tremendous things I have done in my life. Deschutes County and Redmond in particular are growing at a rapid rate. While I deeply value the heritage of this community, we need to elect board members who are forward-thinking and able to equip our students to be competitive in a global economy a decade from now. This is a 4-year term, and I have the vision and stamina to strategically plan for the long run while addressing the crisis of the present. To learn more about me, including endorsements from a variety of stakeholders, parents, teachers, volunteers, and prior school board members and chairs, please visit lavonforschools.com or follow my campaign page, Lavon Medlock for Redmond School Board. Most importantly, vote Medlock, position 3. Don't delay, vote today.
Thank you, Lavon. Appreciate that. Jill Cummings, also for position 3, your turn for your 2-minute closing.
Thank you to the League of Women Voters and City Club for hosting this forum. It's been a great experience and I appreciate the invitation. One of my strongest core values and inherent beliefs is the importance of giving back and serving our community. I'm thrilled at the opportunity to make a positive impact on the lives of our youth and to serve our community as a Redmond School Board Director. I look forward to creating board goals and a board vision in collaboration with other board directors. I'm excited to lift up our district leadership and support their efforts. We just went through some of the hardest times. There's still work to be done. We have the opportunity to learn from what we've been through and plan for the future. The school board has a privilege and responsibility to look long-term at the challenges and opportunities facing our district. I have seen the full K-12 Redmond school experience. I have a deep desire to serve our youth and our community. I've been in the local banking industry for 18 years, and many of my quality skills and leadership strengths are transferable into this position. I am an optimist, level-headed, collaborative, and a connector. I will listen, I will ask questions and research to gain the facts and knowledge needed to support board decisions, and I will advocate for communication, transparency, and accountability to the public. I am eager to bring my experience, knowledge, and community connections to the Redmond School District. We're dealing with the 2 most important things to most people, their kids and their money, and I am uniquely qualified for both. I will champion student success, academic integrity, communication, advocacy, transparency, and accountability. It would be an honor to earn your vote on May 18th. Please vote Jill Cummings for Redmond School Board, position 3. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jill. And thank you to all of the candidates for excellent answers and excellent statements. Thank you to the candidates for participating in today's forum. And thanks to the League of Women Voters of Deschutes County and City Club of Central Oregon for making these forums a reality. Remember, if you enjoyed today's forum and would like to help cover the cost, please consider making a donation to City Club on their website at cityclubco.org. And if you are interested in becoming a member or making a contribution to the League of Women Voters of Deschutes County, please contact them through their website at lwvdeschutes.org. Thanks again to our Candidate Forum Series sponsors, G5 Digital Marketing, Miller Lumber, Brooks Resources, the Deschutes Public Library, Shearshaw's Group, and Louis Capozzi. Without their support, we would not be able to bring you these forums that make and keep democracy strong. The next candidate forum will be the Redmond School District candidates for positions 1 and 2 on May 4th at 5:30 p.m. on the City Club of Central Oregon YouTube channel. All City Club and League of Women Voters of Deschutes County candidate forums are available to watch from links on the lwvdeschutes.org website. The school board forums will also have Spanish translations. Thank you for your interest and in keeping democracy alive. This was a pre-recorded at an earlier time, and thank you for watching.